Party is here today at the South African Human Rights Commission to lodge our application on behalf of Cape Party members as well as in the interest of the general public. We hereby request the Human Rights Commission to exercise the powers invested in it to take legal action against the South African government with regards to the recently proposed bill to expropriate land without compensation. There is another word for state expropriation without compensation. It is quite simply theft in the most criminal sense. And it is a crime against humanity. Not only is this particular action illegal, but it is yet another radical move by the extremist ANC-controlled government of South Africa to expose itself as a blatantly racist organization determined to impose suffering and oppression on all ethnic minorities with the purpose of enriching themselves, the political elite. The ANC regime once promised us racial equality in what they call a rainbow nation. Now the country called South Africa is collapsing under the weight of policy after policy after policy of racial oppression. The Cape Party will not sit by idly as we watch the South African government continue down this pathway of racist extremism. We at the Cape Party believe in rule of law, equality, direct democracy, and freedom. The Cape is the most ethnically diverse region, not just in South Africa, but most of the world. We believe that a rainbow nation is still possible, right here in an independent Cape, free to pursue our own self-determination in accordance with international law. And thus, as the South African government proceeds to take the final and most dramatic steps towards the complete marginalization and oppression of innocent people, we request the bastion of justice and law, the Human Rights Commission, to stand up in defense of the basic human rights of this country's citizens. We request the SAHRC, pursuant to sections 13.1 and 13.2 of the SAHRC Act, as well as section 184 of the Constitution as cited above, to exercise its powers and functions in this regard. We acknowledge that the Commission is competent and obliged to make recommendations to organs of state at all levels of government. We acknowledge that the Commission must ensure the protection of human rights. In terms of section 13.2b of the South African Constitution, if the Commission is of the opinion that any proposed legislation might be contrary to the norms of international human rights law, it must immediately report that fact to the relevant legislature. In terms of section 232 of the Constitution, customary international law is law in the Republic of South Africa. In terms of section 233 of the Constitution, when interpreting any legislation, every court must prefer any reasonable interpretation of the legislation that is consistent with international law over any alternative interpretation that is inconsistent with international law. In terms of international law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 17, states that number 1, everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in the association with others. Number 2, no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his or her property. In terms of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 2 states that all peoples may for their own ends freely dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice to any obligations arising out of international economic cooperation based upon the principle of mutual benefit and international law. In no case may a people be deprived of its own means of subsistence. In terms of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, Article 3 states that the states parties to the present covenant undertake to ensure the equal right of men and women to the enjoyment of all economic, social and cultural rights set forth in the present covenant. In terms of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the Banjul Charter, Article 14 states that the right to property shall be guaranteed. Article 21.1 and 21.3 state that all peoples shall freely dispose of their wealth and natural resources, that this right shall be exercised in the exclusive interest of the people, and in no case shall people be deprived of it. In terms of the Rome Statute, Article 7.1k of the Rome Statute defines persecution as the intentional and severe deprivation of fundamental rights contrary to international law by reason of the identity of the group or collectively. The South African government has ratified the ICCPR, the ICESCR, the Banjul Charter, as well as the Rome Statute. This means that South Africa is a legally bound signatory to these laws. We today are asking the Human Rights Commission to make a recommendation to the South African government that their intended action of land expropriation without compensation is a crime against humanity and contrary to international human rights that it is bound by law to uphold. We will now officially submit our application to the SAHRC. And here we have our request for the South African Human Rights Commission to make themselves active agents with the South African government with regards to the recent proposals to expropriate land without compensation. The South African Human Rights Commission is bound by international law to ensure that the South African government is at least advised when it takes actions which might be contrary to international law. So our submission here is to request that the Human Rights Commission take into account the various laws which we've stated there, and in doing so we hope to make a proposal to the South African government to consider international law before taking the steps which they intend to do with expropriation without compensation.
All right. No, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. And as the Human Rights Commission in the Western Cape, we welcome the submission, and we will duly bring it to the attention of the CEO and our COO as well. We do have an internal process that we follow with any complaint that we receive, and of course, in particular, this one is of interest as the debate is currently brewing in the country with regards to the matter at hand of the issue regarding Section 25. And of course, as you're aware, there have been processes unfolding as far as submissions having to be made by all interested parties to Parliament and the like. And of course, the Commission is currently discussing that particular issue. So it's coming at, I think, a very good time in as far as we also as the Commission are looking at this, because we also have an interest in the issue. So thank you very much and welcome the submission. We'll complain to submission.
Thank you, Lord. Yes, absolutely. That's right. So, Lord, I'm quite interested. You said that this is quite topical now, and quite a few people have been putting submissions in. Generally, what is on the table right now?
Well, in fact, currently I know that the deadline was, I think it was extended. I can't recall the exact date. But this was the 15th. But we haven't received as I mean, this is the first submission that we received that I'm aware of.